And welcome everybody. Hello to some who I've met before. Hello to those who I've not met before. Keep your camera off if you want to have lunch. So this is, there's two things we're going to do here. One is I'm going to show you a small technique which I've cut down from an exercise that we teach on our upcoming professional coaching in a business context. We managed to get one of the longest titles for a course that I've ever known. So we're going to do that exercise, and then if anyone has questions about that exercise, we can have a debrief about it, and then we will do a quick Q&A on the upcoming course if anybody wants to ask questions about it. So you will need something to write on and something to write with. I would suggest a piece of paper. I'm not going to ask you to share it with anyone, so it doesn't matter how scruffy the paper is, but an A4 piece of paper and a pen or something equivalent to that would be useful for you. But a post-it is probably, a sticky note, let's keep firm agnostic. A sticky note is probably too small, but hey, if that's all you've got, that's all you've got. So welcome to everybody, including those who have just joined. What I would like you to do, and this is an exercise, I'm just going to get you to do the exercise first, and then we can have a debrief on it. So it is a cut down exercise. Some of you may have come across it before. It's not mine. It's stolen from Stephen Covey, or Covey, depending on how you pronounce his name. Individually, I would like you to think about the things that concern you at the moment. So write down 5 things, not in the middle of your piece of paper. You're going to need to do something else with that in a minute. Write down 5 things that you are concerned about. Don't worry, if you're eating lunch, just make sure you don't write with the fork. Lots of you are eating. Okay, so write down 5 things that you're concerned about. I don't know how long you need. It's very difficult to read your expressions because I can't see you. Many of you. Those that I can see look like they're studiously writing down. So 5 things that you are concerned about. Anyway, give me a thumbs up, either digital or physically, if you've got 5 things written down. There's little reactions buttons. Thank you. There's little reaction buttons at the bottom of Zoom. Each you can do a thumbs up. Okay, thanks, Tony. Yes, what if you've given me once you've done your thumbs up, you can put it down. I don't want you to get cramp in your thumbs. Okay, right, lots of thumbs up. So we'll assume that people have done that. Anyone's just joined, write down 5 things that you are concerned about. Now what I'd like you to do is draw a circle in the piece of paper that you've got. You might have to turn it over if you've written in the middle of your piece of paper, but draw a circle that covers as much of the piece of paper as you can. I won't judge you on how circular your circle is. If it's egg-shaped, that's okay. And then what I like to do is draw a smaller circle within it. Not too small, because you need to be able to write in both of these circles, but so you should have one big circle and then inside that another circle, like a hub of a wheel. Assuming that you all know what I'm talking about, but while you're drawing, something that resembles that, right? Now, I would like you to think about your 5 things that you wrote down, and I would like you to write them in one of those circles. So in the inner circle, you're going to write any of those 5 things that are within your influence to change. And in the outer part of the circle, I would like you to write anything that is outside your influence. So inside the circle, maybe Jude, maybe you can type this into the chat for people who are busily chewing and can't hear too well. So inner circle is for things that are within your influence. And the outer circle is for things that are outside your influence. Now, where we were going to go with this is that we were going to go into small groups and get you to have a discussion about a number of factors, which, again, I'm going to copy and paste into the chat. But as lots of you appear to be eating, lots of you got your cameras off. I think that we need to make this, hello, for those of you who haven't got your camera. I think we make them slightly bigger groups so that if you don't want to speak, that's fine. You can keep your camera off. But I'm hoping that if we give you groups of, say, 5 to 7, something like that, that maybe at least a couple of you will have a chat. You can keep your cameras off. You can unmute maybe. What I'm going to ask you to think about is about where you placed those 5 items. And I'll paste the questions into chat in a moment. But were they split across both circles, or were they in one circle more than the other? Did you start writing them in one of the circles and then move them to the other circle? And what was different and similar between the people in your group? So did you all do similar things? Did you all write down similar things? Were there some things that you all moved, etc.? Okay, so they're the main things. I will write those in the chat. I've got this covered, Jude, because I've already typed this down, so I can put this into the chat. There we go. Okay, you might want to copy and paste those questions in there. Chris, you've got your hand up. Hi, Chris.
So yeah, I got a question. What if it's a bit of both? I'll give you an example. Ooh. I've just started a new job, so I'm in my probationary period. So one of my concerns is keeping my job. Yeah, it seems reasonable, but that's kind of partly down to me, but partly not down to me. I can do the best job I possibly can. So that's the bit I'm concerned with. But it doesn't matter how good I am if someone on the other side takes exception to me and decides, no, we don't want Chris. So that's outside my influence. How do I place?
Well, can you influence the situation is the question. I'm not gonna give any answers, Chris, before the discussion, because you know how this works. Right?
Thank you so much, David.
Yes, so can someone type the invitation here? I'm still in the dark. Okay. So the instructions so far. Write down 5 things. Is this what you mean, Greg? Yeah. Write down 5 things that you are concerned about at the moment. I'm kind of spoiling it because I'm going to give you the next instruction. And then once you've done that, draw a circle or 2 circles that look roughly like that on a piece of paper, and and write those 5 things into one of the circles. And Jude has put what the circles mean. So the inner circle.
Yeah. I heard the second part, not the first.
Okay. Part. All right. So write those 5 things, and then the questions that you're going to discuss in your groups in a moment I've posted into the chat as well. We are videoing this, so if I know someone has just joined, but I'm going to get you to have the discussion because I want to move this forward. So you can always look back at the video for this. Okay. So I'm going to create rooms of roughly small. I'm going to go 6 or 7. I'm going to trust my gut and say 6 to 7 rooms, okay? Now, you're going to be magically transported into the breakout rooms. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to have this discussion. Please don't leave. It's okay if if everybody in the room just wants to contemplate this. As long as you're contemplating the questions, you don't have to discuss it with the other people in your room. Just think about these questions, and then we'll ask if anyone would like to share anything when you're back in the main room. Again, you don't have to share, right? I appreciate it's lunchtime. Maybe you just came here for a bit of a chill out. Okay. I'm sorry if you were in mid-conversation and I've dragged you back. Okay. Is everybody back? Let's just wait a moment and see if everyone is here. Yes, good. Okay, just before we debrief on this and have a discussion about when it might be useful and stuff like that, I realized that I didn't even introduce myself. But that's okay, because, well, some of you I know, some of you I don't. But I just wanted to explain where this exercise came from. So, as I said, we've got it from Stephen Covey. We've introduced this into our new coaching course that is coming up. And some people might say, well, hang on, I didn't hear anything about Agile in this. This has got nothing to do with what I do at work. A lot of you I know are in Agile environments. But this course is not anything to do with Agile. This course is looking at professional coaching. We have put it as the angle of it's in business rather than for life coaches, for example, or sports coaches or anything like that. But this is about non-directive or pure professional coaching. And I know some of you have done the Agile Team Coaching course. I know some of you have done the expert cohort for the Agile track as well. This is nothing to do with IC Agile. So it is looking at pure coaching stuff. Now, some of the exercises you might think, oh, is there going to be a crossover? There is very little crossover. We may reference things such as the 3 levels of listening that we talk about in the Agile Team Coaching course, but our exercises on listening are not going to be the same as those. So there is no crossover or very little crossover from each of those courses. I've written this with Linda Spencer, who is enjoying herself for a month in Europe at the moment and not back until next week. I don't think she did it deliberately so that I had to do the webinar on my own. She is not an Agile coach. She spent years coaching businesses, lots of them in auto, but is not an Agile coach. So she's a PCC, hopefully soon to be an MCC with the ICF. And I'm also accredited through the ICF. One last thing, I'm doing a doctorate at the moment on coaching. Yes, I know those who know me, I do try to get that into every conversation, but I'm going to do a cheap plug because I'm also looking for participants. My research is in the use of humor in coaching. Unfortunately, if I've ever taught you or worked with you, you can't be a participant, but anybody else who hasn't fallen into either of those categories, please feel free if you would like to be involved in my research, and I'll send you some info. Okay, back to this exercise that you did. So, open floor. Does anybody, let's go for kind of 3 people to say something about it. What came out of that exercise, either from you personally or from your group? Go for it, Al.
If I can unmute myself. So I think our group, we were all pretty much the same, I think. Shout if that's not quite right, guys. But we started off with maybe a split between the inner circle and the outer circle. And then, like, as you were helping, I think, was it Chris, just before we went into the breakout rooms, whoever the chap was, and you said, can you influence it? And that made us all kind of think, well, if there's even 1% we can influence, then maybe the outer ones can actually come into the center, the inner circle. So I think that's where most of us ended up with most of ours. And yeah, I think that was our key takeaway.
Thank you, Al. Chris.
Thank you. As a group, our key takeaway was that we seem to be spending more time focusing on things outside of our influence rather than ones inside. On a personal level, I left that question, where does it go? I actually end up putting things in both circles. So if it was both partly my influence and partly someone else's, and I stuck it in both sides. And as a personal reflection, what I then did was I looked at how much of my mind or how much of my space each of those is taking. Is it high or is it low? And I noticed that the bigger things were in the outside, the part I couldn't influence. And that led me to wonder if actually there's something about size here. Do the bigger things just pull us in regardless of whether we can influence them or whether they can't, kind of like a gravitational pull? That's where I am.
Chris. Thank you. One last person for any thoughts?
Well, I can go go ahead, Tony. Sorry, you had your hand
Sorry,
raised.
I beat you to the electronic hand there. So the group that I was in mostly talked about the edge cases, the between the circles, which was really, really interesting. So there was a lot of discussion about things that you want to do, so your own influence, but other people are perhaps not open to that, or the organization is not open to that. And it was surprising to me how many people felt that things were unable to go in one circle or the other. We also talked about how personal things can also affect you in the workplace, and how we're looking at things holistically. So it's not just work-related things, it's also big things that are going on in our own lives. So yeah, it was a really interesting discussion.
Thank you, Tony. Go on, Adrian, as we're okay on time.
All right. Well, this is not really a group conclusion, but my personal one. And even though we had stuff in the outer circle, we all said about them that we actually can still influence anything, even if it's a tiny bit. There is no worry that we don't have a role to play, even if it's infinitely small.
Cool. Thank you, Adrian. Right.
I don't know.
Well, thank
I
you,
have
Al.
I have written down here Donald Trump's insistent self-preservation. I don't think I can do anything about that.
Well, and that brings us nicely on. He says sidestepping politics is the thing we should. I'm always wary of. Lots of you have covered lots of the points on this, right? So Stephen Covey's point from this exercise is that it is important to spend time on the stuff that you can control or that you can influence, right? So it's worth spending the time to identify these. When someone is feeling worried or they're feeling overwhelmed, an exercise like this, or this exercise, can often help people realize that they can actually influence more than they expected or initially believed, right? This is why you're moving some of those things across. But also, lots of people realize that they're focusing on stuff that they actually can't influence, right? So they're worrying about things. I was going to say about people who are royals and who are maybe married and whether they're in this country or not, right? There are certain things that we can't do anything about. Why anyone would worry about that, I don't know. But it was the first thing that popped into my head. What can we actually influence? And Covey's summary point of this is that productive, proactive people focus their time and their effort on stuff that is within their circle of influence. People who do that feel empowered and responsible for their own life. So it's not going to silver bullet for everyone who is feeling overwhelmed and stressed out. What did we call the seminar? Overwhelmed. Oh, it was overwhelmed, wasn't it? Was the word we used. But it can be a useful exercise. Okay, if you missed it, I know someone joined really recently. We're recording this. We will send it out as a recording to everybody who is on here. So if you've missed it, do not worry. Jude, as my mind, as you're my memory, have I missed anything that I intended to say before I go on to see if anybody has questions about the upcoming course?
I don't think so.
Good, then my brain is still working, even though it's hot. The place is hot, not my brain is hot. I don't have a hot brain. Okay, so any thoughts about the exercise or anything that anyone would like to ask about the upcoming course, or anyone would like to ask about anything that is coaching related? I don't have the winning lottery numbers, unfortunately, but I can try and answer anything else. Okay, well, I'm going to do a cheap plug then while you're thinking maybe there's something else. The course consists of 3 elements. I just had to look at the time. If you did, would you share them? I don't know what that question means in the chat. Yes, the course is made up of 3 parts. There is an in-person 3-day course in London on the 18th, 19th and 20th of July. 3 full days. The course is heavily focused on practice. So you practicing coaching. Of course, there's going to be teaching elements. The 2nd and 3rd module are all online and they are going to run each week during the day of UK time. So morning of the day. So sorry if anyone's in America, it's going to be midnight, middle of the night for you. And it's going to consist of 1-hour sessions, which are very small groups or individual mentoring, and then 3-hour sessions where they are group exercises looking at ethics, so coaching ethics, and there are 7 of those sessions. So 7 3-hour sessions, and then 7 1-hour sessions, which are small groups, 3 1-hour sessions, which are one-to-one mentoring. We will send you more information, of course, because I believe Jude has your emails from logging on to Zoom. I hope to see some of you there. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me in any way you have, or to stay behind now. But otherwise, thank you for coming and spending some of your day with me and Jude.